Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hi, I'm Christina Pan. Welcome to my LinkedIn Live podcast. I'm an executive coach, and I specialize in helping CEOs, founders, and senior executives get strategic clarity and confidence in your journey, pioneering where there are no precedents. We strategically leverage your zone of genius for your next 10x. I'll be doing this podcast series every Wednesday today and for the next 3 weeks at 4:30 p.m. Pacific for about 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A at the end. So there are two outcomes I want to have for this podcast series. One, spark your mind with breakthrough insights on relatable obstacles that block leaders who are leading in the next stage of AI innovation and growth. And pioneering where there are no precedents. And two, if this resonates with you, I invite you to explore partnering with me in an executive coaching journey to be higher leverage with your zone of genius and unlock your full potential. So today, I want to spark your mind and talk about first principles and reinvention. So one of my CEO clients was at a point where he was questioning himself. Maybe this might resonate with you. Am I the right person for this job? Am I the right person for this mission? Do I have the right people around me? Maybe you're asking yourself these questions too. I think everyone goes through this in life. I definitely did. Especially when you're inventing and creating what doesn't exist yet on the AI frontier, or maybe you're transforming your company to be AI native or AI first. Either way, you're doing things that have never been done before. So on first principles, Jensen Huang was on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, and highly recommend this podcast. It was a long podcast, 2.5 hours, and pretty much every minute of it I thought was worthwhile. If you haven't seen it already. And he has some crazy stories about coming back from the brink of going out of business multiple times. But what I want to focus on today is one quote in particular where Jensen said, "What makes NVIDIA special today is that the people that are there are able to start from first principles, learn from best known art, but re-implement in a way that's never been done before." I love his example of first principles for inventing and innovating on new products, doing things that have never been done before. And this relates to executive coaching because a non-obvious insight is that you can apply first principles to yourself as a human too, with your zone of genius. This is what I do with my clients with their zone of genius. And I'll get a little bit more into this in a few minutes. And it's usually when they're doing things they've never done before. So when you are questioning, am I the right person for this job? Am I the right person for this mission? Do I have the right people around me because I'm not even clear on myself? This is a signal to get back to your fundamentals on you, which is your zone of genius, and to reinvent and craft in a way that's never been done before. So for example, one of my executive clients, we worked together through reflective inquiry and externalizing together on his zone of genius. And we discovered that his achiever strength, from Clifton Strengths, was a core driver behind his inventor zone of genius. The gap was he hadn't ever viewed himself as an inventor before. This wasn't in his identity, even though he has invented products and he has patents. And, he told me the last time someone even thought of him as an inventor was when his mom gave him a book about inventors when he was 23. This was over 25 years ago. He's in his late 40s, early 50s now. It turns out that inventing is in his zone of genius. Like, can you imagine if you have something so special in your zone of genius, but you didn't fully realize it because no one ever told you you'd be a good inventor? You never saw yourself as an inventor. You didn't know other inventors. We don't go to school to be an inventor. And the point I want to make is we can't fully leverage our zone of genius if we don't know it exists or that part of us exists. And I see this a lot with my clients as well, which is everyone has parts of their zone of genius that is underutilized or untapped, or, they might not even know about. You might not even know about it. And so my client and I used first principles thinking to shift his perspective and identity to pull out and strategically leverage his inventor zone of genius. This is just one small example of how you can reframe and reinvent your identity by using first principles and your zone of genius. We answered why and how he is the right person to lead his mission. And this was a huge reframing and unlock for him. And for you, it's okay if you decide you're not the person to lead this mission, or, that you're meant to lead a different mission. But at least when you use first principles, at least you are super clear and convicted in this. And, you don't have any second doubts or questioning of yourself. So another way to say this is your zone of genius is first principles for your human side to answer all your internal questions. And the reason why this matters is because when you have internal clarity, everything else flows from there. This is how you get clear on and use your personal first principles to make your best decisions at each juncture. It's also the fastest, highest leverage way I've found to get clarity and conviction when you're making high stakes decisions every day and deciding what bets on your strategy to take, for things that have never been done before, which is everything in AI. Another insight that's not obvious that I want to talk about is in this work that we do together, when I talk about using your zone of genius as your first principles, we are intentionally using identity shifts as a tool for high leverage. Because basically, when you're using your zone of genius to reinvent, how you're operating, and how you can be higher leverage with your personal natural strengths, this is, in fact, an identity shift, or contributes to your identity shift. And I find this is not obvious to a lot of people, and it might be a big mind shift for you too. It was a big mind shift for me, and my clients actually often don't fully realize it until they've been through it themselves as well. And this is the journey I guide you through. So how about you? If you're asking yourself, am I the right person for this job? Or who do I need to be to lead in this frontier for our next phase of innovation, AI innovation, transformation, and growth? And how do I want to use my zone of genius differently for higher leverage? If you're asking yourself questions like these, here is a prompt for you. How might you use first principles thinking, break down the fundamentals of your zone of genius, and reinvent in a way that's never been done before? As Jensen Huang said, this first principles trait is what makes NVIDIA special. And the good news is this is what can make you special, or is what makes you special too. And you can maximize your zone of genius for your ambitious vision and goals. Okay, so the second topic I want to talk about today, the last thing I want to share, is I want to spark your mind about energy management, as in managing your mental energy, your physical energy, your emotional energy. I wrote a Medium article about this too. Zone of genius and energy management are some of the best things I have found in life, which is why I talk about it so much. And I'm, devoted to I spend most of my zone of genius focused on it. And a third best thing in life is pickleball. This is a tool for energy management, and pickleball actually uses my personal zone of genius. That's probably why I love it so much. And so it may or may not resonate with you, since we all have different zones of genius, but I'm still throwing it out there because it is too good as an energy management tool in my mind. And I think everyone should try it at least once. And I have a little story to share too. It came up recently again, pickleball for me, and this is relevant to executive coaching because I had been hyping up pickleball to one CEO, and he said he would try it, but many folks tell me they'll try it. And the CEO and I caught up recently, and he said he was so excited to tell me that he played pickleball with his 3 boys who are preteen teenagers. And he said it was really, really good. And so I asked, what was the best thing about it? And he said he equalized the playing field in, the parent-child dynamic because dad didn't make the rules and his boys figured out how to beat their dad, which was super, super fun for them. How often as a child or, teenager or even a young adult, do you beat your parent at something? And I think there's no doubt, boost their self-esteem and creativity. And he also said his 3 boys normally each do their own thing and have their own friends. So this was a rare time where they all came together in a fun way. And again, it's something where they could be better than their dad. So I just wanted to share this because I think it's a non-obvious insight about pickleball. And pickleball itself might be a non-obvious insight about an energy management tool for boosting all of them, like your mental energy, your physical energy, your emotional energy. And it prioritizes family relationship building and family bonding, which I know is important to many executives. And it's not always easy to figure out how to integrate that into your life when you're building a business and, inventing crazy things on the AI frontier. And I also wrote a Medium article about pickleball as well. And actually have a third article about why your zone of genius is your highest leverage. So I have articles on all the topics I talked about today. I hope this sparked expansive new ideas for you in unlocking your full potential. As I mentioned, I will be doing 3 more of these LinkedIn Lives every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. And if this resonated with you and you're interested in this for yourself, I invite you to reach out or book a call on my LinkedIn. I specialize in helping CEOs, founders, and senior executives get strategic clarity and conviction in your journey leading AI innovation and growth by using your zone of genius for higher leverage and a shift to your 10x or 100x identity faster. I'm an executive coach and former product leader with 20 years of experience in Silicon Valley startups and high-growth companies. I started my career on Wall Street, MIT Sloan MBA, avid pickleball player, and my top natural gift is Zone of Genius Maximizer. My zone of genius is maximizing your zone of genius. Have a beautiful week and wishing you your best energy and highest leverage in your zone of genius.